Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmaswarupine avatara varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. O Ramakrishna, the establisher of the eternal religion, the embodiment of all religions, the best of all incarnations, we salute thee. In the last reading class, we left at para 5 on page 417. Today we shall continue from the para 5, beginning itself. Though I have read it last time, part of it only had been read. Now I will start from the very beginning of the paragraph. We shall continue. Knowing the Master to have been perfected according to all the main religions prevalent in the world, the reader may wonder within himself what his idea about Buddha was. It is therefore but fair that we record here what is known to us about it. The Master regarded Buddha as what the Hindus in general believe him to be. That is, he always offered his loving worship and reverence to Buddha as an incarnation of God, and believed that the incarnation of Buddha continued even then to be manifest in the image at Puri of the three gems, Three Ratna, in the forms of Jagannath, Subhadra and Balaram. You see, the Master believed that Buddha's power was there behind all these three images and that Puri temple. When he heard that the glory of the above mentioned holy place was that by the grace of Jagannath it obliterated all the feelings of difference and thereby all distinctions to caste, he felt an intense desire to visit it. But he gave up the idea when he came to know that it would not survive the visit, and understood with the help of yogic powers that the will of the Divine Mother in that respect was against his going. We have already spoken of the Master's unalterable faith in the purifying power of the waters of the Ganga, which he looked upon as being Brahman itself in the liquid form. He had an equally firm faith that the mind of a man attached to worldly objects becomes immediately pure and gets fit to grasp spiritual ideas when he takes food offered to Jagannath. When compelled to be in the company of worldly people for some time, he took immediately afterwards a little water of the Ganga and the atke. Atke means the dried rice, dried cooked rice, which is called the prasad from Puri. So it is called the atke Mahaprasad. So he took the water of Ganga and the atke Mahaprasad, the cooked rice offered to Jagannath, and asked his disciples also to do the same. Besides, what has been said above about the Master's faith in Buddha as an incarnation of God, we came to know of another fact about this matter. When the great poet Girish Chandra Ghosh, the highly devout follower of the Master, published his drama Buddha Charita, depicting the divine play of Buddha, the Master witnessed it, staged, and said, "It is certain that Buddha was an incarnation of God." There is no difference between the faith founded by him and the Vedic path of knowledge. Our conviction is that the Master came to know this through yogic vision and so said this. The Master heard from the Jains, and the sixth in the latter part of his life, many things about the Jain gods, Tirthankaras, the founders of the Jaina religion, and the 10 gurus from Nanak to Govinda Singh, the founders of the Sikh religion, and had much love and respect for them. Beside the pictures of deities, there was a stone image of Mahavira, the Tirthankara, and a picture of Jesus on one side of his room. Even now you can see it. When you visit Dakshineshwar, his room, the Mahavira statue is there, small statue. The master offered every morning and evening burning incense before them, both Jesus as well as Tirthankara, Mahavira, as before all other pictures. But although he thus showed great love and reverence for them, that is to Tirthankara and the Sikh gurus, we did not hear him describing any of the Tirthankaras or any of the 10 gurus as an incarnation of God. About the 10 gurus of the Sikhs, he used to say, they are all incarnations of Rishi Janaka. The royal Rishi Janaka, I have been told by the Sikhs, had a desire in his mind on the eve of his liberation to do good to the people. He therefore was born 10 times as a guru from Nanak to Govinda, and having established religion among the Sikhs, became eternally united with the Supreme Brahman. There is no reason why this saying of the Sikhs should not be a true one. So these were the ideas about different religions, what Sri Ramakrishna had spoken from his heart. The restatement of the Master's extraordinary experiences. When he became perfect, according to all sadhanas, the Master had a few unique experiences. That was number one, some were concerning himself and some were about spiritual matters in general. Although we have already told the reader some of them, we shall mention here the principal ones. While dwelling constantly in the Mother, in the Bhavamukha, at the end of the period of his sadhanas, he seemed to have understood perfectly the meaning of those experiences. Although the Master had them with the help of his yogic vision, we shall here give a rational explanation to them. Firstly, Master had the conviction that he was an incarnation of God, an Adhikarika Purusha. All of those spiritual efforts were for the sake of others. So he felt that he is a special incarnation of God, and he had come with a special purpose to teach others some special teaching. Comparing the sadhaka life of others with his, he could see a great difference between them with the help of his reason. He saw that an ordinary aspirant practiced one spiritual mood all his life, and that when he realized the vision of God according to that mood, he had complete satisfaction in his mind. Regarding the previous saints and seers, this was the case. With one mood and realization of that mood, they were satisfied. But his own case was not like that. He required very short time for being successful in the discipline according to each method and mood, and could have no satisfaction in his mind till he practiced disciplines according to all moods and faiths. An effect can never be produced without a cause. A search on his part for the cause of the above mentioned fact led him to profound meditation and showed him the reason given above. That is how he came to the conclusion. He is an incarnation. Because if an ordinary great saint or here, he would be satisfied with one mood by realization of God as Rama. He would have been satisfied, a Rama Bhakta. Or realizing Krishna, he would become a Krishna Bhakta. But here he was not satisfied with only seeing Rama, or Krishna, or Jesus, or Kali, or different forms of Kali. He wanted to go for one after another, all the previous incarnations, and perhaps the future incarnations also. So he found himself something different from the other incarnations. That is how he came to the conclusion, I am an incarnation of a special type. It showed him that his condition was unique because he was a special incarnation of God, the Almighty, who is ever free, ever pure, and ever awakened. It made him realize further that all his extraordinary spiritual practices had brought a new light from the spiritual world, and that they had all been practiced for the good of others and not for the satisfaction of his own personal wants. So he came to know that all his spiritual practices were for people to learn and have their own choice in selecting a particular path to reach God. He was convinced that unlike the jivas, the individual souls, he would not attain liberation. He realized this one. He would not get liberation. It does not take one long to understand this, even with the help of ordinary reasoning. How can there be any talk of liberation for one who is eternally non-separate from God, being a special part of Him, who is always free, pure and awakened, and who has no want or limitation at all? As long as God's work of doing good to jivas continues, he will have to incarnate himself from age to age and do that work. So how can he have liberation? Liberation means once and for all disappearing in the Supreme Brahman. The people who want liberation, they don't want to come back to the earth, even for doing good to the people. For they may have their own realization and reason. But usually people who want liberation, so they don't want to come back to the earth. But here was Sri Ramakrishna to come again and again to this earth. He had come to the earth earlier as Rama, Krishna, Buddha, etc. Now he has come as Ramakrishna. Yes, in future also he will have to be coming. So the question of liberation to him does not arise at all. So how can he have liberation? The master used to say, an administrator has to run to wherever there is disorder in the state. This was not the only thing about himself that the master knew with the help of his yogic vision, pointing to the northwestern direction. He told us over and over again that he would have come to that region, the northwest region, on the next occasion, when he comes next as an incarnation. Some assert that he gave them the time of his contact of the next advent and said, I shall have to come to that side in 200 years. Many will be liberated then. Those who do not get liberation at that time will have to wait very long for it thereafter. The master came to know in Bhava Samadhi the time of his passing away long before it happened. Regarding the previous paragraph, that is statement regarding he would have to come in the northwest. So people ask the question even now, they come to us. So northwest means what? Northwest of West Bengal. That means it comes into the Bihar area or UP area or northwest of India itself. In that case, it will go into Iran, Iraq, etc., northwest frontier provinces. So, what does he mean? So, there is a confusion there, or something to be explained, which no one can explain with authority. So, that question has remained unanswered. And then he says regarding that, I will be born again after 200 years. 200 years is all right, but 200 years after his birth or after his Mahasamadhi. If it is after his birth, 1836, he should have been born now. 1916 should have taken, and 2016, so he should have been born now. But we don't get any indication where he is born, how he is there born. Or if it is after the Mahasamadhi, it will go away another by 50 years later. So he will come in 66 or so. So there also there is something to be explained. It is not very certain. Only he has to come again and explain to us what he meant. Whether it was northwest of Bengal, northwest of India. Whether it's 200 years are after his birth or after his Mahasamadhi. That is just aside. The master came to know in Bhava Samadhi the time of his passing away long before it happened. While under spiritual inspiration, one day at Dakshineshwar, he said to the Holy Mother, "When you will see me taking food out of the hands of anyone and everyone, passing nights in Calcutta, and taking the food, a part of which has been already taken by someone else, know that the time of my passing away is near at hand." So, these were the signs which would be the indicators of his approaching Mahasamadhi or passing away. The aforesaid words of the Master proved to be literally true. In 1886, August 16, when he passed away in Mahasamadhi, all these conditions had been fulfilled. He had taken food that has been taken by others, his own disciple, Narendra, etc. Though they refused, he would feed them, and then he would also take that food. So, touched by others, eaten by others, he would take. He spent nights at Balram Babu's house, several nights in Calcutta. That also be true. So, one after another, every statement of him became true, because he was truth personified. Whatever he said was only truth. On another occasion there, while in a spiritual mood, the Master said to the Holy Mother, "I shall not take anything except porridge during my last days." We have elsewhere said how this also came true. During illness, the homeopathic doctor prescribed perhaps diet also. So he could take, because of the cancer in his throat, some semi-liquid or liquid diet only. And porridge was the one thing he was administered during his last days. He could not take anything other than that. That was also a prophecy. Earlier itself he had prognostication. They told it that it would happen like this. We shall now record the second kind of experiences, namely those regarding spiritual matters in general. After attaining perfection according to all the faiths, the Master had the firm conviction that all religions were true, that all the faiths were but so many paths. It can be said that the Master realized it both by his yogic powers and by reason. For performing sadhanas according to all the faiths, he realized in his life the ultimate result of each kind of discipline. It does not take one long to understand that the purpose of the advent of the Master, the incarnation of the present age, is to promulgate the truth mentioned above and stop the decline of faiths and end the quarrels among them. For no other incarnation of God had fully realized this truth in his life with the help of sadhana and taught it to the world heretofore. Until Sri Ramakrishna, nobody taught the harmony of religions, the sameness of religions, as Sri Ramakrishna, with personal experience, practicing every religion in his own way, in its own way, and realizing the highest there. Then declaring that all religions are true, all religions lead to God, therefore there need not be any disharmony between the religions. It was only Sri Ramakrishna who authoritatively showed to the world of today that harmony of religions is necessary, is possible also. If the positions of the incarnations of God are to be determined on the basis of the liberality of the spiritual doctrines they held, the highest place must undoubtedly be accorded to the Master for preaching that doctrine of the sameness of all religions. Liberal to every religion. All religions are equally true. No religion is higher or lower, better or lesser. So all religions are equally true, equally good. Therefore there is no question of high or low, all are equal. Sameness of all religions. So this is the highest liberality in religious world that we can see till today. And Sri Ramakrishna is the representative of this highest liberalized religion. So that is why he is called the greatest of avatars by Swami Vivekananda, Avatar Varishta. Secondly, the doctrines of dualism, Dvaita, qualified non-dualism, Vishishtadvaita, and non-dualism, Advaita, came of themselves to each man with his spiritual progress. That means each man can go through all the three phases. He starts with as a Dvaitin, then goes through Vishishtadvaitin state and come to Advaita. So all the three states one person himself goes through. In fact, everyone goes through that one. Only we are not aware of it. Most of us are not aware of it. The Master therefore said that they were not contradictory to one another, but depended on particular stages of evolution of the human mind. A little think makes it clear. A little thinking makes it clear what immense help man can derive in understanding the vast religious literature through this realization of the Master. Words cannot express adequately what an endless confusion has been produced and how intricate the path to spirituality has been rendered by the three aforesaid doctrines discovered by the Rishis and recorded in the Vedas, Upanishads and other scriptures. All this Dvaita, Vishishtadvaita, Advaita, all the three philosophies are based on the Vedas only. The source book is only Vedas. That means in the Vedas all the three are mentioned. So all the three are equally true. But later on these philosophers who started expounding it in a very, very sectarian way, they made them each one antagonistic and quarrelsome to one another. Unable to find out their proper harmony with one another, the followers of each of these doctrines, Dvaita, Vishishtadvaita and Advaita, did their best to prove by torturing the test. From the same Veda, they would pick up a few and then say, Vedas talk about only non-dualism, Vedas talk about only Vishishtadvaita, Vedas speak about only Dvaita. So, lot of quarrels came up later on, that all of them preached the doctrine as interpreted by them. The result of that attempt of the commentators is that there arises a dread in the minds of people at the very name of religious discussions for the determination of the Shastric truths. People lost all interest and became afraid also of Shastric logicians. So when you argue arguments for settling whether the Advaita is right or the Vishishta Advaita is right or the Advaita is right, so by mere arguments, by logic, you can never settle it. It has never been settled. Yet people are indulging in that arguments and logic even today. It is not possible because each one has selected different mantras from the Vedas and has made a philosophy by itself. Whereas Sri Ramakrishna says that all the mantras are to be taken together. All of them are equally good. It is for the welfare of the world the Vedas are given all these mantras. So if it is for the welfare of the world, it should be the welfare of each mantra should be interpreted in such a way. It is always for the welfare of persons. It should never be antagonistic to anyone. It should not create any ill will among people. So Sri Ramakrishna's realization have now showed us that all the three systems can be in same person. By stages one can go one from other. It need not be always Dvaita, Advaita, Vishishta Advaita and Advaita. You need not go through the same thing. You may go through Advaita first, then come and live as a Dvaita. You can be an Advaita in practice, but in practice you may be a Dvaita. So there is movability, interchangeability in one's living in every state, because all the three are good, all the three are part and parcel of one philosophy of the Vedas. And this, because the sectarian interpretation of the three systems, there was a lot of bad blood between scholars and scholars. People got afraid of arguments regarding this Dvaita, Advaita and Vishishta Advaita. And this fear has produced a lack of faith in the Shastras. First they lost faith in these people who argue. Then they lost faith in the Shastras itself. Because they said everything is in the Shastras. Leading to the spiritual degradation of India. So our faith in the Shastras was shaken. And Shastras is the support for all our spiritual life. So when we doubt it, we doubt our very existence. That is a dangerous situation. So here we come to Sri Ramakrishna. We shall continue this topic in our next reading class. Niranjanam nityam ananta rupam bhaktanukampadhrita vigraham vai Ishavataram paramesha midyam tam Ramakrishnam shirasa namama. O Ramakrishna, the taintless one, the eternal one, the one with infinite forms, the one who has assumed a form out of compassion to the devotees, the incarnate Supreme Soul, and the adorable Lord of all, we salute, bowing our heads to Thee.